So Nancy's going to start with a short reminder
I almost
about
forgot. Oh,
submissions. So, Nancy,
Yeah, I think Sunshine was going to try and share her screen with that information just in case anyone wants to
oops.
take
I
notes.
shared the
Oops,
invitation. That didn't work.
share the screen, but that's not the right one.
let's try another screen.
Let's see if I can find that document. Okay.
Or I can just read it, whatever.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead, and if I happen to find it in the meantime, I will find it. Okay?
Don't you love this
Okay.
cyber world?
Okay, well, first of all, I'm very excited to be part of the Village Stories 2021 um, extraordinary team of writers and editors. Sunshine and Peggy are on that team, as well as Marcia Hackett. And whenever we have Google Drive issues, we contact Billy, who is our webmaster. So thank you very much for everyone who has submitted a story or a poem. So far, we have 13 stories submitted and 7 poems, and that is very exciting. So when Sunshine hopefully gets that up there, most of you are submitting your work appropriately, or we can put it in the correct format, but you'd save us a little bit of time if you would put your name first, the name of the story or the poem second, um, the submission date in the format of 2021 04 20, and then VS 2021, VS for Village Stories 2021. And I'm happy to send this out in an email to everyone because everyone might not be here as well. So, Peggy, would you like me to do that at the end?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
why don't you do that? I'm having trouble bringing it up.
Okay, not a problem.
That would be most
So
welcome.
again, I think you're using, most of you. I see several people here who have done, um, who have entered some stories or poems. When you do the whole thing should be in Arial font and done on a Word document. Um, the title should be centered and 22 font in bold. After that, everything is 16 font and not bolded. So, and some of you authors have been very prolific during the pandemic and have submitted several different stories or poems, which is wonderful. Um, I want to remind you that there is a maximum of 2,500 words per author. What occurred to me kind of halfway into my word count was that we don't want to count your name. So I'm going back and trying to correct that. So um, that's that's just a good reminder. And then your final submission date is July 31st. I know that seems like a long way away, but I can't even believe that we're 3/4 of the way through April already. So July 31st will get here quickly. Those of you who may not have submitted anything yet, diversity is the name of the game. So we would really love to have you submit a story or a poem. And we'd also like to encourage you to enter the cover contest. And I'm just going to read off of this. Peggy, do you I'll just read the cover requirements, and then if you want to make any comments on that, because I wasn't part of this last year, but we are accepting one idea per person for the front and the back covers. submit your entry as a JPEG or a Word document. And then on August 1st, a Village Stories 2021 team member will send an email to all club members with the submissions, and then you will be asked to vote. So the winning cover will be notified by September 1st, and that will be very exciting. So those of you who are artistically inclined, I encourage you to jump into the cover contest. Peggy or Sunshine, do you have anything you want to add to the to anything, but particularly to the cover requirements?
We probably need to have, I don't know how it's going to work. I'll have to talk to Phil, but when we get all of the submissions in, then we need Phil to collect them all, attach them to his email, and so that people can choose, have them numbered,
Sure.
and so that people can choose. So Phil Silverman is part of the team on the pictorial part, and also when we get around to organizing the first story versus the last story and all the ones in the middle and the order, Phil's going to take a first shot of ordering that, and then it'll come back to the Peggy and Nancy to agree or disagree, as the case may be.
And one last thing, send stories or submissions to Village Stories, capital L, capital W, at gmail.com. So
thank you. That's very important, and I skipped right over that, but that is our new email just specifically dedicated to the Village Stories. So no spaces, Village Stories LW
exactly.
at gmail.com. I think in the beginning there was some confusion, and Peggy was getting submissions coming to the info at email, but make sure that they go to the Village Stories LW.
And
So,
one other thing,
yes.
if after all the submissions are in, we still don't have, let's say, what do you guys think, 150 pages, we'll take submissions that we left out because you went over the word count. So we could add those submissions at the end if we don't have enough submissions to make a good book.
Peggy, what I have been doing is, I think this only happened in two instances, but I've been notifying the author if they're over the word count.
I know.
And so they then take it back. So we would have to then open it up again. We're not saving those
Right.
stories.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll let them know that you've gone over the word count, but at the end, if we have room, we'll add your story or
Right.
your poem.
Right. Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, and thank you so much for reminding me about Phil. We just haven't seen him in the process yet, but he sounds like at the end he will become a very important part of the team.
Yeah, he comes in later. He comes in later, and anytime we have a group conference, we always include him in the invite. I haven't seen him yet, but it might happen.
It could.
Okay. All right. Any questions from anyone?
Will this information all be in what you send out?
Yes.
Great, great.
Exactly.
My hand only writes so fast, and I couldn't get it.
Oh,
Yeah.
so if no other questions, we're showcasing Doug Sainsbury. He's such a great author. And so he's going to tell you about his journey. So welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Peggy. And just wanted to mention too that I think Peggy's done a terrific job of not only founding the club, but promoting it and developing it over these past whatever years, 6 years or whatever it is. So hats off to Peggy on that.
8 years now, and thank you.
Yeah, wow. Thought I'd start out with a quick biography. I was born and raised in the near west suburbs of Chicago, a couple of towns called Oak Park and River Forest, which are like sister communities. They share a lot of activities, and including the high school. And speaking of the high school, Oak Park River Forest High School, I attended. It's the public school, and Ernest Hemingway attended also, but not when I was there. He was a couple of years ahead of me. But in any event, after high school, I went to the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign for college and majored in English. And after graduation, I entered a law school in Chicago, and graduated from there in 1968. But as you might remember, if you're old enough, I think most of us are, there was a war going on at the time. And so the Army had been writing letters to me even before I graduated, inviting me to participate. And I wrote back and said I'm a full-time student, and I was working part-time. So they left me alone, but sooner or later they were going to influence my life. So a friend of mine and I went downtown to Chicago and Army recruiting office, and were given information about the three major branches, which are infantry, artillery, and armor. And so we decided to sign up for officer candidate school. And by doing that, we were both deferred for 128 days. So we were able to continue working, save some money. So anyway, he went in 6 weeks ahead of me for some reason. I'm not sure why we didn't go in together, but in January in Fort Leonard Wood, which you can imagine the winter down there, I went in February. And then after that, we both went to artillery AIT in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. We saw each other a couple times there. We didn't see each other in basic training at Fort Leonard Wood. And he ended up in a missile battalion that went to Korea. And I ended up with the Army in, well, he was in the Army too, but I went to Vietnam along with almost everybody in my training battery. Most of us dropped out of the OCS program because what they didn't tell us when we signed up was that it's a 6-year commitment. So we didn't want to spend that many years in the Army. So by dropping out, we were just regular enlisted guys, 2-year commitment, and so forth. So when I got to Vietnam, I was trained in what they call fire direction, which means that we would be in a tactical operations center, receiving information from a forward observer who was out with the infantry, and he was calling in artillery strikes. So we would take his information and coordinates and key that into these very cumbersome field computers and calculate the fuse and all the other features of a round of artillery that would be necessary. And then we would fire. So in any event, I never worked a day in that MOS. When I arrived at the headquarters battery, the personnel sergeant, there were about 4 or 5 of us lined up, new recruits to the battalion. And he said, "Who knows how to cut hair?" And one guy raised his hand. "You're our new barber." And he said, who knows anything about carpentry? Another guy raises his hand, you're our new carpenter. And so it went until I was the last man standing. And he said, what about you? What can you do? And I said, I can't do any of those things, but I do have a law degree. And he said, terrific, because our legal specialist is rotating in 60 days. So you can train with him and become our new legal specialist. I said, fine, I'll do that, no problem. And I did, and also served as a personnel specialist. And then a couple of months in, I had written a story based on my first night on guard duty, which was a very harrowing experience. Just being on guard duty alone is harrowing. So in any event, I sent it through Army publications at the brigade headquarters, and lo and behold, it was published in it's kind of a small magazine. And I'm not sure if it was for our division or if it went countrywide. I don't remember, but I have a copy of it, and it was the title was 2 Up, 2 Down, because you're on guard for 2 hours, and then you sleep for 2 hours, and then you're on guard for 2 hours again. And it was the guys who were with me had been in country for a long time and had seen a lot of pretty scary stuff, and they were, of course, relating the stories to us newbies, and it was pretty scary just hearing the stories. So in any event, the Army was very image conscious at that time. We did not have a what we call a PIO, public information officer, in our battalion, so they asked me to do that, and I said, fine, I'd be happy to. So what that involved was flying out to the field locations, the firing batteries and other operations with the colonel, and he would do his business, have his meetings and so forth, and I would take pictures and interview guys, and then write stories, and with the photograph, they taught me how to develop film and make prints. So I would send the story and the prints, photos through brigade headquarters, and they would be just disseminated throughout actually the world. The Army Times is a worldwide publication. They sent them back here to the States to, some of the larger newspaper outlets. I think I had one story in the LA Times and one in the Chicago Tribune. So
was this in the 70s?
It's 69 and 70, right. I went over in August of 69 and came back in October of 70. So I enjoyed that job most of all, and did get some publication, some newspaper writing experience and all of that. So then after I returned, I had gotten married right before I went over, and the economy was in a recessionary environment. So I had a couple of offers, one from the FBI, and he told me, passed all the tests and everything. And then he said, well, we send you for 16 weeks to Quantico for training, and then we send you wherever we want. And I can imagine the newest guys probably get assignments like Billings, Montana, or someplace like that. So I said, I don't think we want to do that. I had a new wife, and anyway, so turned it down. Had a couple of other offers, but I went back to my old job downtown Chicago at Atlantic Richfield credit card operation. And I enjoyed that. I worked there before I left for the Army, and came back to that and enjoyed it. But about 6 months later, they called us in and said, we've contracted our credit card and data processing operations out to a company in Atlanta. They came up and made some of us offers. I was one of the ones they offered a job to in Atlanta. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Atlanta. So anyway, I found another job in consumer credit field. And that kind of mushroomed a few years later into a banking career. And that's where I spent the bulk of my career. And once I retired in 2011, I didn't have any excuses left as to why I couldn't start writing fiction. So, you know, I had been working full time, raising a family and all of that. But now the time came. So I happen to have a friend who was a high school classmate, and through our class reunion in 2011, he had already published 5 or 6 novels on Amazon through CreateSpace, and gave me some pointers. And one of his tips or advice was read some books on how to write fiction. I don't care if you're an English major, it doesn't matter. You need to learn some of the techniques and the rules and so forth. So I did that. I read 4 or 5 books. Show and Tell was one of them. Stephen King's book on writing was very good. Read that and a couple of others. So then I plunged in. I had an idea for a 7-book series. And once I had written probably 20,000 words, I said, oh my heavens, this is impossible. I can't do this this way. So I'm just going to concentrate on writing the first book and get through that, and then I'll see where I go from there. So I did, and that same friend of mine, Bill, from high school, was kind enough to review my manuscript 3 different times during various stages, gave me a lot of good feedback. One of my sisters had worked for a publishing company, a company that publishes textbooks. So she did some editing for me, and I hired Bill's editor, a lady in Arizona, and she edited the book too. So in any event, then I got on CreateSpace and really enjoyed working with that piece of software because it's very user-friendly. Sunshine has taken us through how to use it, although I need a brush up if I'm going to use it again. So in any event, I had to hire them to do a couple things for me that I'm not that good with word processing and so forth. So it cost me I think I paid maybe $200 to CreateSpace. I had an artist in Illinois do a cover for me. Her first book cover. She was a professional artist, but she had never done a book cover. I thought she did a pretty good job. Here it is. You can see it. And
Good book.
I had selected a gloss finish and white pages, and it's okay. It's not bad, but then Peggy had invited a fellow from Minneapolis who owned a publishing company, Mark Levine, come and speak to us in January one year. And I was impressed with what he had to say. So I talked to him after the meeting, and I told him I'd like to talk to him about maybe publishing my second book with him. So long story short, we did connect, and I signed a contract with them and started in on the process, and worked with an editor and people who worked on the cover and the interior, the whole 9 yards. And the second book is called Phantasm, and it's a continuation of the first book, Intrusion. So as far as the cover goes, I was under the impression, and it was a misguided impression, that if you're a writer and someone's publishing your book and putting it together, you would just tell them, you know, what the story's about, and they would just do a cover for you. Well, it doesn't work that way. They want your ideas on what you think the cover should be. So I gave Tracy information about the first cover on intrusion, and I gave um, Mark's company my thoughts on the cover for Phantasm. In the middle of the editing process, Mark sells the company to another media company. So it's called Salem Media. I think they're headquartered in Camarillo, but I worked out of the Maitland, Florida office. And so in any event, I told the cover designer what I wanted, something like this. We went through 2 or 3 iterations, and I thought she did a really nice job. And I don't know how I grade myself as a cover idea guy, but so far they've come out okay, I think. Now, the cost I haven't talked about yet, and I try and avoid it as long as possible, but it's very costly, thousands of dollars to sign the contract, and then there are some surprises later on, which I'll get into in a minute. But in any event, my third book is Emergence, and it's a continuation of the story in the first 2. It's a series. I don't call it a trilogy because a trilogy has a beginning and an end, and I'm not sure if I want to end this series. So again, I had to work with the cover designer, and the first draft they sent me, there was a young fella here with glasses, and it might have been the cover designer himself, I'm not sure, but I had an idea. I thought, why don't I put my son's picture on there? And so I sent him a picture, and they put it on. So he was happy about that. I was happy about that too. So that completed the 3-book series, and then I thought I'd take a break from that. I had another idea for a story, and that turned into my 4th book, Trillions, and that's this one here. Oh, I should, well, no, I'll get to that. But this book, I had this idea pretty much for the cover. And again, one of my high school classmates is a professional artist in Dallas, and she offered to paint a kind of a draft of what I told her were my ideas. And it was kind of like, it was very good. And it was not a whole lot of resolution, kind of like, I don't know if you call it surreal, but it was the outline of what I wanted. So we used that as the basis for the cover. And she's a terrific lady. Quick story about her. Our 50th reunion, the people on the committee bought a software package from a company called I'll think of it. Anyway, it's designed for reunions, and it has everything you want. You could have a profile page for every person. They take your picture out of the yearbook, put that on the profile, and they ask questions. You answer the questions as much or as little as you want. So we developed, in the committee, I was on the search committee for the first reunion 25 years after graduation. And we found, located or accounted for almost all 800 of us who graduated in that class. Obviously, some people had passed away, others didn't want to be bothered, and this, that, and the other thing. And some people wrote novels on their profiles. But Betty had been divorced and was living in Dallas, and another fellow from our class, Rick, and they had gone to grade school together. He lived in San Francisco. He was divorced. So one of them wished the other a happy birthday, and then they started emailing back and forth. Then they started telephoning each other back and forth, and they got married a month before the reunion. and all because of that website. It was amazing. So in any event, she helped with the cover on that. And so we published that July of last year, coming up on a year. And then one other thing that I wanted to do, I liked the way the books appeared with my name at the bottom and the title up on top and so forth. And this is the spine. I like that. And so all of the books that Salem did for me have that format. And so I wanted to have the same format for Intrusion. So I asked them I republished this. Looks very similar, but it's a matte finish. It's got the cream color pages, which are easier to read and so forth. Same spine, everything the same. And that wasn't that costly. That was, I don't know, $1,500 or something like that. But they all look the same now, except for the original Intrusion copy. And of course, I had purchased 35 copies of that, which are I haven't opened the box yet because I'd rather have people use this one, the new one. So in any event, let's see, things I've learned. Well, number one, it's very expensive. And it doesn't end after you publish the book. And I'll get into that in a minute. But the important things I've learned, and I think Mark had mentioned this when he addressed our club way back when, the two most important things are editing and marketing. He said, save your dollars on everything else and use them for editing and marketing. So I did that. And on Trillions, I paid an additional large sum of money for their best editing package, which included 2 rounds by 2 different editors. The first one was line editing, and got a lot of good feedback on that. And then the second edit run was for copy editing, which is story development and that sort of thing. And that was very comprehensive, a lot of back and forth between the editor and me. And it almost, if we were in a conversation, it almost seemed contentious at times, but that's okay. I wanted that. I wanted someone to really attack what I had done in the story. And this editor, I don't know if it was a male or a female, don't know the name or anything else, but he or she challenged me on a lot of things, made a couple of suggestions, one of which I would have had to rewrite the entire book, and I wasn't about to do that. So I did take many of their suggestions, and I think it has improved the story from the way I originally wrote it. It's really, it was a great experience, and I'll continue to do that in the future in terms of getting the editing. Now, now marketing is a different story. I had Salem do some things for me that are marketing related. One is they created a fan page for Facebook for me, and they also created a website for me. And of course, you pay extra for that. And they also did some work on my Goodreads author page and my Amazon author page as well. So tried to enhance, the marketing image and so forth. Now, the story doesn't end after you've paid for the production of the book, the editing, and all of that. There are things called fees, which I didn't really know about until 2 or 3 years ago. And they're annual fees. So I think this goes on forever, unless I terminate my relationship with them. But what are the annual fees? Annual website hosting renewal, ebook distribution renewal, POD distribution renewal software, returns program renewal software. Those are the major ones. And it's several $100s per book per year. So it gives you an idea. And I think most of the publishing houses are like this. The first book I mentioned, I published through CreateSpace. So the royalties that I received were larger than they are for the other 3 books because Salem publishes through Ingram Spark. So Salem gets a production fee, Amazon gets a fee, Ingram Spark gets a fee. So you don't make very much money on the sale of a book through Amazon. So in any event, I think that's about all I wanted to share, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if people have them.
Are you?
Douglas, okay,
Okay.
we should do that hand raising thing here, folks. Go ahead, call on whoever. Doug, can you see us?
Well, I think Peggy was first, so let's go with her.
Oh, how do you get that hand raising?
It's right under the participants. Should be.
Participants, where are the participants? Let's see.
On the right side, after all the pictures, we all of us on the screen. If you look to the right, it has a list of the participants, and under that, it has you can raise or lower your hand.
On mine, it's right after whether or not you're recording, all the way over on the right. It's in mine, I have to click on reactions, and within reactions, it says raise hand.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I was just going to say, so you're writing your 5th book now?
I haven't started yet. I have an idea, and I've made some notes over the last few months and so forth, but I haven't really developed the project in my mind as fully as I think I need to before I actually start. The other thing is I've gotten involved with the video club, and they have, I think, 4 or 5 Zoom meetings a month. And I've gotten some extra duty with them in terms of a new liaison between Video Club and the Globe. So I spend a lot of time learning that from Lucy, and just haven't had a chance. The other thing is I've been spending some time trying to find time to adapt my first book, Intrusion, to a screenplay. And I love that. It's a lot of fun. It's a totally different kind of writing, and there's a lot to learn about format and all of that. So the Video Club has a 3-week class that started last Thursday on screenwriting, kind of introduction to screenwriting. So I'm in that. And so anyway, I do have an idea, but I haven't done anything with it yet.
I think Scott raised his hand next. Wasn't he next?
Yeah. Okay. So Doug, I was just going to ask you, do you feel like you have a team in place for your upcoming projects? And the reason I ask that is because over the last several years, I feel like I've gotten an editor, an artist, to do the covers, to specialize in the covers. And it seems that the books go a lot more smoothly, the process, because now we kind of know each other and we can be frank with each other, but also stylistically, we seem to understand each other better. So I guess what I was asking you is if you are doing that now, or is it something you were going to do? Well,
I have a couple of people that I talked to about my storyline and so forth. So I get feedback from them during the process, but when you, at least with Salem, when you sign up with them, they have all the team members necessary, and there's a process. You go from pre-production to production to editing, and then cover, and they have their own people. They selected the editors, they selected the cover designers, and in some cases you don't even know their names, the folks that work on the book. But and I've been pretty happy with what they've done and the people they've used. They're all professionals, and so I haven't assembled my own team, if that's what you're asking. I know you have, because you've told me a little bit about it, but I think if I'm going to continue with Salem, I think I'll probably just continue to use their resources. If I don't, then I'm thinking about maybe publishing a book on KDP, and seeing how that process might go. And if I do that, I might ask some of my own people to participate.
It all comes down to what works for you.
Right.
Okay.
Doreen raised her hand, was it?
Yes, I raised my hand. I have two questions for you, Doug. First of all, how much time elapsed from, let's say, the moment you signed up with Salem until the book was published? And second, you spent some money on marketing. Was that worthwhile? Were you selling books?
Well, the time elapsed was approximately about, first one I think was 8 months, should have been shorter, should have been 6 months, because one of the people in the production process kind of dropped the ball and was not responsive and so forth, until I complained, and then it started moving pretty quickly. So I'd say 6 months has been the average from the time I sign a contract until it's ready to launch. And the second part about marketing, it's hard to tell because I don't get feedback from Amazon on the number of sales and that sort of thing, unless it's there and I don't know how to access it. Just get, some payments direct deposited into my bank account. Amazon handles the ebook sales, of course, and Salem handles the soft cover, because they have, they arrange for the printing through, I think Ingram Spark does most of it. So I don't really have a very good handle on how many books I've been selling on Amazon. On books that I sell myself, I have a spreadsheet that I kind of keep track of it that way. And obviously your margin is larger on those than it is on Amazon.
Thank you.
I had a question from Cheryl. Were you satisfied with the sales of your first book?
Again, not sure. Actually, I take that back. I did get some reporting from CreateSpace on royalties and so forth. So never satisfied. I wish it had been more. Part of it's my fault because I'm not really crazy about the marketing piece. I mean, addressing book clubs and schools and things, I haven't done that. So part of it's my fault for not being more aggressive in that vein. I guess I was halfway satisfied with the first book. Yeah.
Did Doreen get an answer to your question? I think you raised your hand.
Deneen?
Deneen, yeah. No, I once, first of all, Doug, I really appreciate what everything you talked on. It was really interesting. Have you, I have a couple questions. One, have you thought about doing any audios for your book? Audibles?
I looked into that and it's very expensive. So I haven't up until now. Maybe someday, if I win the lottery or something, it's very expensive though, from what I've been able to find out.
Well, again, it depends on where you go because, and if you do your own recordings, you're cutting down your cost. And
Right.
then there are local recording studios that only charge maybe $50 to $100 per hour to do your recording for you. So it doesn't, you have to just do a lot of homework on that. And you know, on KDP, if you go to your bookshelf, it shows you your sales. It tracks all your sales for your book.
Absolutely.
KDP, yes. I was able to see that on CreateSpace back on with the first book.
Yeah, and did you know that there's a Facebook page of just made up of KDP publishers, and you can ask them all kinds of questions, and they're really good. Like I didn't know that if you want to republish your book, it doesn't cost anything.
Well, you have to invest in a separate ISBN, but that's a small price to pay. How do you access that on Facebook? Just do a search on KDP Publishers?
I think that is, I'll work on mine and I'll send it out to Sunshine or you know, and see if she can put it on there or something.
Okay.
For everyone.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you send it to me, when I send the link to this video, I'll send it to everybody.
Okay, I'll do you or Peggy on that one. Yeah.
Oh.
Thank you.
So, me again. Have you recouped your cost for publishing, or are you still in the hole?
Only in my dreams. Not even anywhere close. I'm talking about, I've invested a lot of money, thousands and thousands of dollars. So no, not even close.
So you're talking about using KDP for something that will bring your costs down.
Yes, yes.
Down to zero.
That's the idea.
Of course, you're still going to want to. And you know, I use Upwork, and I tell them I need a good editor, and I offer, say, I have a 450-page book, and I need a good editor, and I'm willing to pay, and I give an amount. And I usually get somebody, I review their credentials, and the last person I had working for me did a wonderful job.
Good. Upwork?
Yeah, Upwork.
Okay.
It's in the document that I published about doing it on KDP. So if you still have that document, you're in good shape.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
If not, let me proceed. The next meet, well, first of all, thank you, Doug. He's been with us, Doug's been with us since I founded the club in 2013. And I'm so proud of him. We all are. You've done a great job. And
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Yeah, such a good job. Anyway, first I want to remind you, Doug and everybody, storytelling in September. Get your story ready for September. If we have to, we'll Zoom. If the clubhouses are open, we'll do it at the clubhouse. But we will have storytelling in September. So get your story ready. Second notice, next month, Daniela Walsh is going to be our speaker. Now, if you remember who she is, she's the one that wrote the story about us in the Globe. So she's going to talk to us about working for the media, being a journalist. And she said something to the effect of, I don't see how I'm relevant to your club. And I said, well, journalists are the ones who influence our thinking. And so she agreed to be our speaker next month. And I think you'll find her very interesting. You remember our story in the Globe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, where we headlined it.
Yeah.
Daniela was the author. And I think she writes for several publications. I also want to remind you, I've still got about 20 books. So if you can't come to Clubhouse 3, I'd be happy to mail it to you. No problem, just let me know. And your first copy is free, and any more copies are $7 a piece. Cost me about $3 to mail it, but I don't mind, or if you don't mind, using club money. And then, what was I going to say? So I think that's it. Having a senior moment here. That never happens. But I think that's about it for announcements. Does anyone else? Oh, Deneen, please do one of your ballads at storytelling in September.
Okay.
They're so cool.
Thank you.
And presently, I'm editing a Platters book written by Elmer Armstrong. So that's keeping me busy. But I've read several of your books lately, and they're all dynamite. I love them. I think you guys are the best authors on the planet. I can't understand why anyone buys a book from anyone else. So, does anyone else have any announcements, any new books? Larry Johnston just published a new book. His books are very funny and short, very readable. And Professor Alan Dale Dickinson just published a new book. And his books are light and interesting also.
Okay.
Any other comments? I'm sure, Scott, I bet you've published a new book lately.
I'm always working on projects. I have 3 going right now. And I'm making progress on all of them, but probably not this year, but maybe 2 next year.
Wow.
Depending upon how they go. So, but I was also, my work was is going to be featured in June at the Mann Library at Cornell. And the San Diego Poetry anthology for this year, my poem was chosen first out of 295 poems.
Whee!
So, so there's some good things with that.
Great, Scott. Well, you're our master poet.
Thank
And of
you.
course, I published, I think it was February, my 3rd book. So
Yeah, Harold published a book lately. Also, he's always right with the times. He published a book about drones. The week after I finished it, my son brought over a drone. So They're fun. So, any other comments? In July, we'll have Barbara DeMarco Barrett. She's Marcia Hackett's teacher, and she's very busy publishing. So she should be a good speaker.
Great.
Wonderful.
I'm looking for someone for June. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Any other comments?
Hello. We have a new book coming out. The Boomer Sings Again, 134 pages, and good, clean fun for the whole family. The Boomer Sings Again. It's gonna be fun. Thanks.
Right? Does it have El Gordo y El Flaco? Phil?
Not here.
Stories about Laurel and Hardy and the Three Stooges.
Oh, well, I'm concentrating on Bud Abbott. I have a series going, people in retirement or semi-retirement looking back and wondering if they should come back. And I do that with Mickey Mantle, Stan Laurel, and I got one on Bud Abbott. It runs 11 minutes, and that's what's happening next. It'll be ready in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
It'll definitely be in my new book. Thank you.
Right. I was telling El Gordo y El Flaco means skinny and fatso. And that's what we call them in Mexico. And because their programs were on our television, they were bilingual in Spanish. I thought everybody in the world was bilingual. I was shocked when I came to this country and people weren't bilingual.
Oh, I wanted to welcome Karen Hedges. I finally got her email right. She was here for quite a bit of the meeting, and she had a suggestion. She said maybe another instruction from Saddleback named Catherine Kramer.
Ah, write it down.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yes.
So get your stories to us, guys. We're waiting for them. Jack Mullen just sent me his story. What a good story. But yeah, get your stories to me or to us.
Gotta find some more time to write.
Tell me about it. So if no one else has anything else to say, I guess we might as well say goodbye till next week. And thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Good to see everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Adios.